Mr. Jan van Aken. Thanks for joining us today.
Good evening.
Thank you. Dear Jan, as you follow, there is a historic developments in Turkey. So according to that, first of all, I would like to ask about the Kurdish leader, Mr. Abdullah Öcalan, has been visited by them party representatives, and also Mr. Öcalan's message on the 27th February was very clear and to the point. If the ground is prepared, I have enough power to bring conflict to the peaceful negotiations table, he said. How do you evaluate this message first, and how important it is? And also, as you know, Mr. Öcalan proves that he is on the peace side with this announcement. So, how would you like to comment on that?
Yeah, I think that this announcement from Öcalan is really a historical event, and it's now the very, very big chance for a peace process, not only for the Kurd or the Kurdish region, but for the whole region. And I have to say, I studied quite a lot of peace processes from the past, whatever, 20, 30, 40 years, and they are not easy to get. It's always difficult to get a peace process started. And now we really need a lot of political will to follow through with this peace process. I think the situation now is the PKK started. Now the Turkish side has to follow. And what we need is now a discussion on an equal level, both sides on the same level. And I think this is not possible while Abdullah Öcalan is in prison. I mean, he is key to get a peace deal done. I'm very sure without Abdullah Öcalan involvement, there will be no peace deal in the end. And what I know from many, many different peace processes is no peace process is successful in the long run if not everybody is involved. You need it really to be inclusive. And so Abdullah Öcalan would need free communication with his people, with all his partners. And without a free communication, he cannot really negotiate a peace deal that is good for everyone. So I think the first step is get him out of prison, at least give him free communication, and then let's start with a discussion.
You already underlined the what should be the next step, but just to make it a little deeper, would like to ask you that Mr. Öcalan and the PKK now expecting a move from Turkey in a positive way, a step forward. So, what is your call to Turkey, and what is your message for Öcalan and his workspace to be prepared so he can freely participate in the peace process? Because the condition of Öcalan now is not making him available to participate perfectly in the process.
Yeah, I think we always have to be careful when we start a peace process, we should not have preconditions. So it would not be wise to say we only start the discussion if this and that happens. That usually stops all peace processes in the beginning. But it's very wise from the PKK to say we are ready, but now we wait for some confidence building measures. And that's very typical for peace process. So both sides say, yes, in principle, we agree to start discussions, but without confidence building measures, I mean, they usually are not getting anywhere. So what I would expect now, without making the precondition, but what I would expect from the Turkish state is a confidence building measure. And that could be, for example, the release of political prisoners. So if they release some or more political prisoners, it would make the other side comfortable that they really are honest in their approach to peace. And as I said before, with Abdullah Öcalan in solitary confinement with no free communication, there will be no peace process. That's clear. And another possibility of the Turkish state as a confidence building measure would be a ceasefire. Stop the fighting, be it in Rojava or be it in the Kurdish regions of the Turkish state. All this would build confidence between the parties and would make a peace process easier.
Thank you. Also, would like to talk about the EU and EU's position as well. What is the position of the European Union for a peaceful solution to the Kurdish-Turkish issue? And in this context, do you think the EU has a stance supporting for the peace?
I mean, I think the EU and Germany, they could have a very critical, important role in the peace process. And I would say, yes, in their Sunday morning speeches, German politicians from the government would say, yes, it's a very good thing if a peace process starts. But so far, they are not doing much to support the peace process. They are very uncritical towards the Turkish government. And I think one key point for Germany and the EU is to change their stance towards the PKK. The PKK is not a terrorist organization here in the European Union, and I think the prohibition of the PKK should be lifted. I mean, we just had this week, we had a case in Germany where a prominent member of the Kurdish movement was imprisoned because they say he belongs to PKK. PKK is deemed a terrorist organization, and I think we have to change this. What we really need now, and that's the aim also of Abdullah Öcalan's move, is we need reconciliation. Reconciliation between the Kurds and the Turks in Kurdistan, in Turkey, but also here in Germany, in the European Union. And as long as we have a prohibition of the PKK, there will be no peaceful reconciliation. So it's a key step.
Just because of you just mentioned the Kurdish activist has been arrested in Germany, would like to ask you this question in order. The German federal government reportedly does not plan to change its policy of recognizing the PKK as a terrorist organization. What steps should be taken to change this definition, basically? Because raids, trials, and detentions against Kurds are still ongoing in Germany. And also, regardless of this question, for example, as you underlined, recently in Germany, Kurdish activist Yüksel Koç was arrested under the law 129B. So, how would you like to answer that one?
Yeah, as I said, I mean, we have to lift this prohibition of the PKK. Right now, the only way to get there is we need pressure from within inside Germany. We, as the left party in Germany, we're always calling to make the PKK a legal entity in Germany, in the European Union. But I think we also need pressure from other European countries. I think Germany is especially hard on this position, and I think we need activists in other European countries to pressure their government to bring it to the European Union table. And then we need to build up the pressure in Germany to at least be silent and not vote against it. And then we would have won something.
Thank you. Also, still about the Germany, so our audience can understand the Germany's position much more deeper. What role is played by the Germany political system in the conflict on Middle East as well as on Kurdish question? As you know, still the refugee crisis of Europe still continues. Still there is arms deals with the Middle Eastern companies. So. Um, what is the role of the Germany in a political way in the Middle East? Very shortly.
I mean, Middle East is a big thing. The smaller thing, what is the stance of the German government on the Kurdish issue?
Good.
And it's a very bad one because Germany is very, very closely aligned with the Turkish government. Whatever this government is doing, the Germany stands very close by Erdogan and his allies in Turkey. I never understood it clearly because, I mean, what the Kurdish movement did in Rojava, you know, self-determination, democratic peace processes in Rojava, it's something the German government always asked for in the Middle East. Now, Rojava, they did it. They showed that it's possible in the Middle East, and there's zero support because the only support of the German government is for the Turkish government. It's wrong. I think there should be a much more democratic approach in the region, and I think the German government should put more pressure on the AKP government in Turkey. For example, stopping the weapons deliveries to Turkey and to put pressure on Erdogan to change the stance toward the Kurds.
Thank you. That was the next question. Actually, would like to ask it because it's important. What should be the role of Germany on Turkish-Kurdish peace negotiations and also in the wider region in the Middle East conflict? Basically, as you know, the still one of the biggest arms trader to Turkey is Germany. It's the company called Rheinmetall. So these arms has been used in with the chemical weapons as well, towards the civilians as well, but nothing has been, and there is no reaction from Europe or from Germany. Um, do you think this is a dirty deal with Turkey, or is just a allies, Germany and Turkey allies in a historic way? That's the reason still these conflict is continues.
I think it's both. It's historical allies and it's a dirty deal, and we have to fight both of them. We have to be careful. I mean, there's a lot of Rheinmetall weapons in Turkey, but the chemical weapons that have been used, as far as I know, have no direct or indirect connections towards Rheinmetall, but that's a very minor issue. What's clear is the German government supports the war. The Turkish government fights against the Kurds with its weapons. We saw German tanks invading Rojava in a couple of years ago. So we need to change this. And so the historical ally is one issue, but also the dirty deal. Turkish government stops migrants before they come to Europe. And that's why the German government is silent about the Kurdish issue.
Thank you. Following the call of Kurdish leader Abdullah Öcalan, the PKK announced its decision to dissolve with historic decision. So different circles are now emphasizing that the Turkish state should take a positive and confidence building steps, as we talked before, that will strengthen the peace process, everyone underlining that. What would you like to say about this? What is your call and message to Turkish state and Erdogan administration regarding this?
Yeah, as I said before, you need confidence building measures. One step could be the release of political prisoners. Another one would be a ceasefire in certain regions, stop aggression in Rojava. So any minor step, small step could build confidence, and that could ease the peace process.
Thank you so much. If you would like to answer that one as well, we would be very proud, because there will be a chance for you to maybe meet with Öcalan. And what would you like to tell him if you see him?
Yeah, thanks for initiating the peace process, I would say. And that I think he inspired one of the first democratic regions in the Middle East, and that is Rojava. And I think it was his inspiring book and his inspiring work that made this happen. So I would say yes, let's work together for a peaceful transition in the Kurdish areas in all of the countries involved, to have self-determination for the Kurdish people and for all the other people living in that region.
Mr. Jan van Aken, thanks for joining us and thank you for your valuable comments.
Thank you very much for having the opportunity here. Thank you.
Thank you.